Hey, so this weekend we celebrate Purim, which is God Elohim delivering Israel. And it's a wonderful story of how Esther's obedience and Mordecai's obedience and the physical deliverance of Israel. But I want to look at Haman, and I want to look at the spiritual and the historical thing behind Haman, because it puts a deep perspective into this story. So to look at Haman, we need to look at Agag. Now, Agag is believed to have been a name for king of the Amalekites, and this Agag was in the time of King Saul. And the Amalekites lived in the mountains, and they hung around the Canaanites, and the Canaanites had a main god. The Amalekites didn't, but we know that they were worshipping the Canaanites god, which is Baal. Now, Baal is Satan. He's demonic. He required literally bloodletting. He required there was mutilation, all that stuff, child sacrifice before him. Anything to appease him through blood, and it was usually human. And so the Amalekites would use the Israelites to do this, to appease Baal, the devil, which is interesting to note in the story in Purim. And so what happens is God has had enough of this. He's told King Saul to kill all the Amalekites, including the king. And King Saul doesn't kill the king, he and his family. And so Samuel comes, and in a rage he mutilates Agag, and then kills him. But their descendants have Haman, and Haman comes from that line. Now, we also believe that Haman is also a type of priest for Baal and for the Amalekites and stuff like that, and their gods. And so Haman is so determined, not just because he just wants to wipe out because what happened with Saul and Agag, but he wants to appease Baal, appease the devil by the blood of the Israelites. And so you start to see the depthness of this. This isn't just a revenge of a wild man. This is well calculated and planned by the enemy. And what you see also is that Mordecai is the descendant of Saul, and Saul's father as well, through the line. Benjamite, yes, but also Saul comes from that tribe too. And so you see God works it perfectly, because you see Haman starts with a pride, and he starts with all this stuff, and in the king of Persia, Ahasuerus, or some people say Xerxes, or stuff like that, and many languages use that, but let's use Ahasuerus, the Persian name. And what happens is that it's very much where it's observant to him. It's starting to become observant to the king. And what happens is that he understands Haman's pride starting. So he says, "What should I do for somebody who is so honored by the king and stuff?" And Haman says, bring him in the greatest horse and greatest sort of robes and everything, and parade him through the streets and stuff, and honor him that way. And so he says, "Yeah, do this to Mordecai." And what you understand is that the Persian Empire is over other kingdoms that they've conquered and stuff like that. So over Israel's kingdom, but of course the last part of the Amalekites' kingdom. And so what you understand is both of this is going on, battle here in the spiritual and the emotional and mental. And so there's a lot of energy put into this from both sides. And so what you see is he's frustrated now. Haman is getting even more frustrated because he knows what he needs to do with the Israelites. So in his mind and thinking, right? And so you've got this, and then so he builds this huge gallows in the back of his yard, and it must have looked funny to a lot of people, but 50 cubits high, but it also must be very scary to a lot of people. It's meant to intimidate, right? There's the mind thing, the thing that's going on, and the emotions that is going on, and also the spiritual. The Catholic Church even takes it interestingly seriously with Michelangelo. In the Sistine Chapel has painted a wonderful thing in the corner of the Sistine Chapel in Rome, depicting this, and it's more of a cross that he puts Haman on and different things like this. Because of the language, it could be like a gallows, a cross, a pole, something like that, we believe. The English version uses a gallows, so like a hanging thing, but so Haman goes and he tries this, but of course Esther is praying for the 3 days and all her ladies, and she gets the nation to pray, the Jewish nation to pray there. And what is interesting is that Mordecai, after Haman's hung or crucified or whatever on the thing that he's made in his backyard, Mordecai is put in the place. Now this is the spiritual side, and if you read the last chapters of Esther, which are in the Apocrypha, which are not in the Protestant Bible but in the Catholic Bible, and he talks about how Ahasuerus says to all his princes and the kings under him, because he's really an emperor, right, of Persia. So he says to all of them, follow the God of Mordecai and follow his way and his leading. So God has won the spiritual battle of the day, won the emotional mental battle, that no more are the gods to be appeased by mutilation or killing for the blood, but God doesn't need appeasing in that way, and which is good for our understanding as Christians, because we understand that God then sends his own son later on, centuries later, to his blood sacrificed for us is what saves us, and he is Yeshua, Jesus. And so it all ties in a wonderful way. And so that is my Purim message, and God bless you. May Elohim, Yeshua, and Holy Spirit, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit bless you. And bless you in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.